At 6, people in Northern Ireland are told to work from home again in a bid to curb the spread of coronavirus. With Christmas fast approaching, leaders at Stormont say act now or risk much tighter measures.
It's about acting now to keep families and our communities safe. It's about acting now to protect the health service and prevent our hospitals from collapsing.
In Scotland and England, people are now being urged to do a lateral flow test before every social occasion or visit to a crowded place. As COVID cases continue to rise sharply on the continent, we'll be looking at the situation across the UK. Also tonight, a murder investigation in Somerset after a couple are found dead in their home. Their 2 young children were asleep upstairs. A tourist bus crashes in Bulgaria. 46 people are killed. And Rugby League's Kevin Sinfield raises more than £1 million by running 101 miles in just 24 hours for his former teammate Rob Burrow, who has motor neuron disease.
And coming up on the BBC News Channel, the post-Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era begins at Manchester United in their first game under caretaker manager Michael Carrick in the Champions League.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. People in Northern Ireland are being asked to work from home again where possible as COVID measures are tightened, with leaders at Stormont declaring that now is the time to act. From today, face coverings should be worn in Northern Ireland in all inside settings, and meetings should take place outside where possible. Northern Ireland is the first nation in the UK to take precautionary measures in the face of rising cases across Europe. Our health editor, Hugh Pym, reports.
There's a stronger message on working from home in Northern Ireland, so businesses like this restaurant in Belfast fear they'll lose out, with fewer people going into the city centre each day.
We've worked really hard, and now it seems to be that people are cancelling. We're getting all of our stock in, we're getting ready to, we've got all of our staff organised, and unfortunately now it may not look like certain things are happening.
Northern Ireland's COVID infection rate is now the highest in the UK. Hospital admissions are expected to rise, and ministers said intervention was required, including advising people to limit social contacts, as well as working from home.
There certainly are uncertain times, but now is the time for action, and if we want to achieve the best possible outcome right now, then now is the time to act.
Case rates have fallen slightly in Scotland, and Nicola Sturgeon announced that the vaccine passport system would not be extended to more venues. But she said taking a lateral flow test before socialising over the Christmas period was vital to slow the spread of the virus.
Our situation is definitely more positive than we might have expected it to be at this point, but it is still precarious. We need to get the R number back below 1, and that means having in place a range of proportionate protections to keep the country as safe as possible while we continue to live as freely as possible.
At this pub in Perth, they were relieved that vaccine passports would not be required for customers at this stage, but concerned at the possibility that tighter rules may yet be introduced.
You never know one day to the next what is going to be coming in next, and whether we are going to be a viable business at the end of it. We feel quite lucky that we've managed to get this far, but whether we make it through Christmas if they change things is a different matter.
While UK case rates are relatively high, they're not surging, as has happened in Austria, the Netherlands and Germany, where a range of lockdown measures are being introduced. The UK has also moved ahead of many other European countries with booster jabs, though Israel started earlier and has done more. But the guidance in England on lateral flow tests is being widened to include those planning to mix with others in crowded indoor spaces. In all parts of the UK, the authorities want people to know COVID is still out there and they shouldn't relax their guard. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
Well, let's take a look at the situation in the UK in more detail with the latest government coronavirus figures. They show there were nearly 42,500 new infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period. That's more than 5,000 more cases than last Tuesday. On average, there were just over 42,500 new cases reported per day in the last week. 165 deaths were recorded. That's of people who died within 28 days of a positive COVID-19 test. On average, in the past week, 140 related deaths were recorded every day. And on vaccinations, more than 15.6 million people have now had their booster injection. Well, let's join our Ireland correspondent Chris Page now, who is in Belfast for us this evening. And there's been no cases this time compared to this time last week are slightly down. But why are these restrictions, these new measures being brought in now?
Well, Sophie, it's true that the case numbers have stabilised somewhat over the last few days, but in the few weeks prior to that, there was a sustained increase in the infection rate, bringing it to levels not seen here since the height of the pandemic back in January. So ministers in the devolved government here at Stormont hope that by strengthening their message, they'll avoid the need to tighten the law. The advice to businesses to prepare their staff to come back into the office has been scrapped, and instead employers are now being asked to help employees work from home. Hospitality venues have been pointing out that with public health advice being strengthened around, for example, people being advised to limit the number of people they socialise with, well, that's leading to Christmas parties being cancelled. So even though they'll be allowed to remain open at this time of year, they fear their trade is going to be well down. Likewise, some retailers have expressed concern that their trade might be hit. For example, there won't be as many people out and about doing some shopping during their lunch break. However, when you talk to people in Northern Ireland, they do recognise that there is an issue around the infection rate, that something needs to be done to try to bring it down again. Healthcare workers are warning that hospitals are still under considerable pressure, even though hospitalisations, the number of people being admitted to hospital, isn't anywhere near the level it was back in the depths of last winter.
Chris Page, thank you. A murder investigation is underway after a couple in their 30s were found dead in their home near Taunton in Somerset on Sunday. This afternoon, police have named them as Stephen and Jennifer Chappell. Their young children, who were 5 and 6, were asleep upstairs. Here's our correspondent, John Kay.
Jennifer and Stephen Chappell. She was 33, he was 36. The married couple were found dying from their injuries at home on Sunday evening. Then police found their 2 young children asleep upstairs. Skye lives down the road and came to pay her respects.
Those poor children now left by themselves without their parents at Christmas, and it's just, I couldn't imagine it, you know what I mean?
A post-mortem examination has confirmed that Jennifer Chappell died of multiple stab wounds. Police have been searching 2 properties and clearing out drains looking for potential evidence.
It's quite frightening, actually, knowing it's so close.
Teresa heard tonight that the couple's 5 and 6-year-olds are being cared for by relatives.
We all talk to each other, and as the children I can't forget for what they've seen. It's scary, absolutely scary for them. So young as well.
A 34-year-old man is being questioned on suspicion of murder. Another man in his 60s has been released under investigation. Avon and Somerset police won't comment on social media reports that there'd been an ongoing dispute about parking on the estate. But they have confirmed that officers had contact in the past with those involved. Local people have been told this was an isolated incident.
Utterly heartbreaking, and to look at the situation that this community sees. As I said, I don't want anyone speculating. Our thoughts are with the families, and my officers are supporting that process.
Jennifer Chappell worked in a garden centre coffee shop. Stephen Chappell was a teacher. Their families have asked for privacy. John Kay, BBC News, Somerset.
46 people have died after a bus crashed and burst into flames in western Bulgaria. It's thought only 7 people managed to escape alive from the vehicle. Many of the passengers, including children, had been travelling through Bulgaria on their way back to North Macedonia after a weekend trip to Istanbul when the bus crashed. Our Europe correspondent Bethany Bell sent this report from Bulgaria.
A catastrophic crash. The bus rammed a barrier on a motorway southwest of Sofia. It tore away a 50-metre section and then burst into flames. On board were tourists, mostly from North Macedonia. They were returning to Skopje from a trip to Istanbul in Turkey. The victims have not yet been officially named. A cause has yet to be determined, but witnesses reported hearing a blast.
The question is what caused this blast? If it was an explosion inside the bus or a blast caused by the bus hitting the guardrails. This brings us back to the main leads in the probe. If it was a technical fault of the vehicle or a human error that caused the crash.
7 people escaped from the wreckage.
The survivors were brought here to this emergency hospital in Sofia. They're being treated for burns and other injuries. It seems they only managed to escape by breaking through the windows of the bus.
For relatives and friends, this is an agonising time. This man said he hadn't heard from his nephew.
I saw information about the crash at 6 a.m. this morning. I saw it on the internet and on Facebook, to be more precise. And as my nephew was in Turkey, I started searching for more information on the internet. I called the company's phone number for 3-4 hours, and we do not have any information from them, and nor are they answering the phone.
Locals say accidents are common on this stretch of motorway. As the authorities continue their investigations, the families mourn their dead. Bethany Bell, BBC News, Sofia.
The government has admitted for the first time that Parliament and the public have been misled for more than 30 years about a British Airways flight that landed in Kuwait in 1990 as the Iraqi invasion was underway. More than 350 passengers and crew were on board. Most were taken hostage for months. Now files have been released which reveal that the British ambassador in Kuwait had warned the Foreign Office before the flight landed, but the message was not passed on to the airline. Well, our security correspondent Gordon Carrera is at the Foreign Office now. Gordon.
Yes, an apology and admission, because for 30 years successive governments have hidden the fact that there was a warning which might have been able to stop a group of Britons being taken hostage. It all goes back to August 1990 when BA Flight 149 took off from London heading to Asia but making a stopover in Kuwait. And it was that night that Iraq invaded Kuwait. The plane was unable to take off and passengers and crew were taken hostage, many of them badly mistreated over the coming months. What's emerged today in files is that the British ambassador in Kuwait made a phone call as the invasion was starting and as the plane was in the air. And it was circulated around Whitehall that this was happening, but it was never passed on to British Airways. And as a result, the plane landed. Now, passengers and crew have welcomed that admission, but they remain angry because they believe there's another secret to BA 149, which is that they think there were a group of undercover intelligence operatives on board who they say they saw get off the flight. Today, though, the government has stuck by its denial that the flight was exploited for some kind of intelligence mission. So the controversy around BA 149 remains, despite today's admission and apology.
Gordon, thank you. A public inquiry has opened into the mistreatment of people at an immigration removal centre at Gatwick Airport. It comes after BBC Panorama broadcast undercover footage in 2017 showing alleged assaults, humiliation and verbal abuse of detainees by officers at Brook House in Sussex. This report from our Home Affairs correspondent Tom Simons contains distressing images from the start.
Brook House, where ex-prisoners and asylum seekers are held before they're deported. In 2017, a custody officer went undercover here for the BBC's Panorama. Filmed incidents like this. A man who's taken the drug spice, mocked. And much more, including physical abuse by staff and detainees suffering mental health breakdowns. That's still a concern, even last year, according to this former detainee, who we've agreed not to name.
I have to hurt myself because I was stuck in there. I don't know when I was coming out. And plus, I was sick. I was sick in my head. When I came out, it took me 1 year to recover.
The BBC investigation has finally led to a public inquiry, which opened today.
The treatment revealed in the Panorama documentary was shocking and has no place in a decent and humane immigration detention system.
In charge, the senior prisons inspector Kate Eves. She'll investigate the way private firm G4S ran this place, the way the Home Office oversaw its work, and what's happened since the BBC investigation.
So what is it like inside Brook House right now? Well, it's not a prison. They do have phones, they have access to Skype. I've been talking to a series of detained people inside the walls of Brook House over the last week.
I don't feel like a human.
A major concern, the time it takes to decide if they'll be removed from the UK. Some just want to get out.
How many do you think are actually happy to leave the UK right now?
Maybe 20.
So 20 people out of 70 would leave?
Yes. Yeah, 20, maybe more.
Wider questions about immigration are beyond the remit of this inquiry. But the man who blew the whistle because of his concerns, now a BBC journalist, believes it must succeed.
I was working at Brook House for 3 years, and some of the abusive members of staff left only to be replaced by others. And that's because there is a problem with the system, and I hope that the inquiry brings about some changes to that system.
The inquiry will begin taking evidence later this week. Tom Simons, BBC News.
The time is just after 6:15, our top story this evening. In the run-up to Christmas, people in Northern Ireland are told to work from home again in a bid to curb the spread of coronavirus. And NASA is set to launch a mission to deliberately slam a spacecraft into an asteroid to try to alter its orbit.
Coming up in Sports Day on the BBC News Channel, China responds to the controversy surrounding tennis star Peng Shuai as the International Olympic Committee dismisses criticism of their involvement in her reappearance as complete nonsense.
The funeral has taken place at Westminster Cathedral for the murdered MP Sir David Amess. Hundreds of politicians joined his family and friends to pay their respects to the 69-year-old who was stabbed to death last month. A message was read out from Pope Francis praising Sir David for years of devoted service. From Westminster, our political correspondent Damien Grammaticus reports.
In the heart of Westminster, they gathered today. Prime Ministers past, along with cabinet members, friends and colleagues, all mourning their loss.
Yesterday in Southend, it was Sir David's private family service. Here, it's the political world turning out to say goodbye to a man liked by those on all sides.
A silence fell. Sir David Amess's coffin arrived, and on the steps of Westminster Cathedral was an honour guard of House of Commons staff. Their respect a mark of the man Sir David Amess was, genuine and kind to all, no matter their station. A committed Catholic, the Pope who he'd met sent a personal message, saying Sir David's was an example to follow.
Commending Sir David's soul to the love and mercy of Jesus Christ our Saviour, the Holy Father prays that all who honour his memory will be confirmed in the resolve to reject the ways of violence, to combat evil with good, and to help build a society of ever greater justice, fraternity, and solidarity.
An MP for almost 40 years, Sir David never did become a minister or a party grandee. He was a politician driven not by ambition, but a desire to make a difference, his passions often local and personal.
All of us are feeling very, very sad, but on the other hand, we're also celebrating today. We're celebrating a life. I feel very strongly that we must remember David not for how he died, but for how he lived and for the causes that he fought for.
Sir David Amess mourned and missed on a day that was about honouring a decent man and the many lives he touched. Damien Grammaticus, BBC News, Westminster.
A BBC investigation has found that highly polluting greenhouse gases are being smuggled into the UK from Eastern Europe to be used in cooling systems, air conditioning units and fridges. The gases are called HFCs. They're heavily regulated and restricted, and they're now being phased out in the UK and the European Union. But older machinery still runs on them, and it's resulting in a thriving underground trade, as Angus Crawford reports.
It's an illegal trade you've probably never heard of, in gases that harm the environment.
That should not be on the market in the UK.
Absolutely not. That one there is about 4,000 times worse than carbon dioxide.
They're called HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons, used in air conditioning systems, shop fridges and the aircon in older cars. Only approved and licensed companies like this one can import, sell and use them. There are meant to be strict quotas.
Here's the thing, these old HFCs are powerful greenhouse gases. The government is phasing them out and wants us to use cleaner, greener alternatives. But that means upgrading with more modern kit, which is expensive. The result, a thriving black market in old gases worth millions. We're heading to the centre of that black market in northern Romania. I've arranged to meet a smuggler. He's nervous, so we find a quiet back road. He thinks we're buyers from the UK. OK, that looks good.
This is just a sample. He's selling in bulk. I ask about shipment to the UK. Despite checks by customs officers, the border's porous and huge amounts of HFCs are brought in illegally.
These gases are smuggled from Ukraine, just up the road there, into Romania and then shipped across Europe and on into the UK,
where we found them advertised on Facebook Marketplace. This one's in North London.
What have you got for me?
Unlicensed and selling illegally to small firms and aircon engineers who don't care about the rules.
Can you get more in?
Yeah. So why does this matter?
So, there we go. We picked these up this morning.
Yikes. There's no way that should have come into the UK. There's huge profits to be made, and if you are caught, which in itself is rare, often the penalties are very low. So we really need to see customs and enforcement agencies recognise that climate crime is a serious crime, and this might be an invisible gas, but it has a huge impact on global warming.
Another illegal trader. Remember, anyone selling or buying HFCs has to be properly licensed. But here, again, no questions asked.
Great stuff, thank you.
Legal suppliers say it's something we should all think about when we turn on the aircon.
If their car gets cold, then maybe they're not so worried. The air conditioning's working, then that's fine. But whilst products are brought in illegally, then they are going to weaken the effect of that regulation, which ultimately means that more global warming can take place.
We made sure the bottles we bought illegally were emptied and recycled. But our investigation shows laws passed to protect the planet can be exploited by criminals who just want to make money. Angus Crawford, BBC News.
The man convicted of the murder of the British student Meredith Kercher in Italy in 2007 has been released from jail early. 34-year-old Rudiger Dave from Ivory Coast was jailed in 2007 for sexually assaulting and murdering the 21-year-old. He was due to be freed in January. Meredith Kercher's American flatmate Amanda Knox and her Italian boyfriend were also initially convicted. Their case ran through the courts for years before they were eventually acquitted on appeal. Tomorrow, NASA is set to launch a mission to deliberately slam a spacecraft into an asteroid to try to alter its orbit. The idea is to test out technology that may one day be needed to push a dangerous asteroid off course if it's headed for Earth. Our science correspondent Rebecca Morell has more.
Until now, it's been the stuff of Hollywood blockbusters like Armageddon, an asteroid heading for Earth and a mission to stop it. But science fiction is becoming science fact. For the first time, NASA is sending up a spacecraft to knock an asteroid off course. This one isn't a danger to the Earth, but the DART mission is a trial of technology for the future.
Typically, when we're talking about a mission to go to space, we're going to explore some new world. But in this case, we're literally going to crash a spaceship into an asteroid and change the direction and speed at which it moves through space. And we're doing that to basically test a technique to save the planet if there was ever a killer asteroid coming towards Earth.
NASA is targeting a small asteroid called Dimorphos, which is orbiting around a larger space rock. The spacecraft, travelling at 13,000 miles an hour, will fly into the small asteroid, leaving an impact crater up to 20 metres wide. But this should also give the rock a kick, which will speed up its orbit. And this can be monitored from the Earth to see if it's worked.
On board is also a mini satellite that will film the crash. Even a small nudge can make a big difference to an asteroid's path. And that could be vital. A 160-metre wide rock like Dimorphos could devastate populated areas. But smaller ones are a problem too. Anything bigger than the 20-metre asteroid that broke up over Russia in 2013 and injured hundreds of people are a concern.
Even these smaller objects, could cause quite a lot of damage. And 25-metre asteroid, they're going to be really hard to spot with telescopes. So we're always pushing the technology and the science that we can do, and then we're just trying to detect where every single object is so that we know, what's coming in the future.
The spacecraft will take nearly a year to travel the 7 million miles to its destination. No one has ever tried anything like this before, but it could be the best chance of defending our planet if an asteroid is ever on a disastrous collision course. Rebecca Morrell, BBC News.
And finally, the rugby league legend Kevin Sinfield has just raised more than £1 million by running 101 miles in 24 hours. He's raising money for research into motor neuron disease after his teammate and friend Rob Burrow was diagnosed with the incurable disease in 2019. Sally Nugent has the story.
Thank you again.
Kevin Sinfield, finishing an epic challenge. He has run 101 miles in 24 hours.
Rob's family are right here.
At the finish line, his former teammate and best friend, rugby league legend Rob Burrow. Rob was diagnosed with motor neuron disease back in 2019.
Don't make me cry.
No, I'm not going to make you cry.
Right.
You've done it.
Yeah, he knows how much we love and care about him. That was certainly a battle. We wanted a battle and we got one.
3, 2, 1, go.
The challenge started in Leicester. All along the route, members of the public encouraged their hero on.
Well done, Kevin, mate.
He's done a wonderful thing, really, really wonderful.
I've not come across anybody so inspiring in a very, very long time, and I wish him all the very best.
Kev is raising money for the Motor Neuron Disease Association and Leeds Hospital's charity. MND is a degenerative brain disorder. There is no effective treatment, no cure.
Rob's got the same strain as motor neuron as my sister had, who passed away last year. It's just so damn horrible.
As day turned into night and the temperature dropped, this gruelling run, mile after mile, started to take its toll.
Obviously he's running on fumes, He's very emotional, very tired, but we're just all so proud of him.
Kevin Sinfield entered the Leeds Rhino Stadium to a standing ovation, and this message from his best friend.
The money raised will help people to get a great facilities for a new care centre and to help the MND to find a cure. Today is an amazing day for the whole community and it will benefit every sufferer. Lastly, to my amazing friend Kev, you don't realise the impact you have had on me and the whole MND community.
A remarkable feat of endurance, which will help fund treatments and research into a cure for MND. Sally Nugent, BBC News.
Time now for a look at the weather with Matt Taylor. Hello.
Hello there, Sophie. I'm going to take you to the end of the week, first of all. Let's quickly jump ahead. Picture behind me shows some pretty cold conditions. Yes, there's going to be a little bit of snow for some, but perhaps of more wider concern across the country as this area of low pressure Friday night into Saturday works its way down through the North Sea is the strength of the wind. Could see potentially damaging gusts of wind take us into the start of the weekend. That's certainly going to have some impact, but of course with it, it's going to be much colder feel. And yes, some of the rain will start to turn increasingly to snow, even a bit further south than we've been used to so far. More details on that, of course, over the next few days. Tonight, though, relative calm compared to that, and that's going to lead to some mist and fog in places, particularly across parts of England and Wales. East Anglia, the southeast more especially. Touch of frost here and there, not as cold as last night, but with more breeze through Scotland, Northern Ireland. There won't be the fog, but outbreaks of rain starting to bring the first signs of change. So into the morning, south and east Scotland, southeast Northern Ireland, outbreaks of rain quickly clearing through to sunshine and showers. That rain, a cold front, pushes into parts of Northern England, North and West Wales through the afternoon. It separates what will be quite a murky day, so patchy drizzle towards the south and east, to the much brighter, clearer conditions for the north and west, where the showers could start to turn wintry over the hills. That surge of cold air then works its way southwards through Wednesday evening, but with some pretty lively gusts of wind around Shetland. Those working their way eastwards into Thursday, but it will be a gusty day across the board on Thursday. Showers draped around the coast mainly, most be dry and sunny, but the showers will turn to snow even to sea level across north of Scotland later. It will be a chilly day, if a fresh and crisp one for most. Brief lift in temperatures then through Thursday night into Friday. Outbreaks of rain spread their way southwards and eastwards under strengthening winds. Colder air pushes in, snow then starts to fall in the north of Scotland, but it's then through Friday night and into Saturday those really strong winds will get going. Keep up to date latest weather warnings on the BBC Weather website. I'll have more tomorrow. Sophie.
Thank you very much, Matt. And that is all from the BBC News at 6. It's goodbye from me on BBC One. We join the BBC's news teams where you are. Goodbye.